Okay, let's talk about the massive controversy between a dragon and a wyvern. Now, a lot of people seem and tend to think that wyverns are not dragons, and that dragons aren't wyverns, when in reality, it is totally invalid. Not all dragons are wyverns, but all wyverns are dragons. It's the same concept as not all birds are penguins, but penguins are still birds. The wyvern is simply just a species of dragon found in specific cultures and popularized in Western culture in media, Hollywood, video games, etc. A wyvern is still very much a dragon, just like sea serpents are still dragons. There are differences between the Western dragon and the wyvern, though. And a lot of people think when they think of dragons, literally only think that a Western dragon or an Eastern, Chinese, or Japanese dragon are dragons. That is very much not the case. So when it comes to the difference between wyverns and, let's just say, Western dragons, because Western dragons are the ones with wings and 4 legs, the most popular version, at least in Western culture. Though I don't understand why they're the most popular when wyverns are in all the movies and video games and shit. But I digress. The first difference between a wyvern and a Western dragon obviously is the legs. Wyverns only have the 2 hind legs, where Western dragons have all 4 legs. The wyvern's front legs are attached to its wings, so technically it's just a 2-legged dragon in retrospect. The other difference would be body structure. So a Western dragon is going to be more robust, bigger. They have the 4 legs, so they're going to have a bigger body. A lot of the times, sometimes they have horns, claws, scales, etc. Where wyverns have lighter bodies and they're more streamlined, they're more bird-like and a lot more agile. There's also a mythological and cultural difference between the two. Let's just take European folklore Western dragons, for example. They're seen as wise and powerful in mythology, and both malevolent and benevolent. And they're often associated with either guarding important places or things, or hoarding treasure, which has symbolization and meaning and lessons behind it, but we'll move on. That's a different video. The wyvern, on the other hand, is often depicted, thanks to, Hollywood and video games, as aggressive or destructive. They're more of a symbol of fear than a creature with a significant mythology of its own behind it. Now, when we look at the symbolism difference between a Western dragon and a wyvern dragon, now the symbolization between the two can often get a little fuzzied or confused. And I think this is a lot of the part of why modern Western, Hollywood and entertainment and video games and etc. just use wyverns. Because symbolization speaking, Western dragons typically represent things like power, wisdom, and magic in mythology. A lot of the times they are seen as guardians, of treasures, like I said before, or embodiments of chaos. Where a wyvern, on the other hand, symbolization usually stems from either military might or strength. One thing that I like to do when it comes to dragons, especially dragons from mythology or comparative dragons, is going over the misconceptions of said dragons. Because there are always so many misconceptions, especially about dragons. So when it comes to wyverns, they have a few. Clearly, or I wouldn't have to make this video. But one of the biggest misconceptions on wyverns specifically is that they're just small dragons. People often just assume that wyverns are either not dragons at all, or that they're just smaller, lesser versions of dragons. It's not that they're lesser, it's literally just a different species of dragon. So it would be the same as saying a snake is not a reptile because it's not a lizard. Another common misconception is that wyverns are always malevolent or always evil. A lot of people view wyverns as aggressive or evil, mainly because of modern Hollywood or video games or culture in Western world. But in reality, their symbolism varies. Sometimes they're used to represent things like strength and protection, while other times they are destruction or malevolence. The perception of wyverns being purely evil or malevolent is an exaggeration of modern culture for entertainment purposes. It's that simple. Another misconception on wyverns is that they are only found in European mythology. People often assume that they are solely European folklore from medieval heraldry, when in reality, wyverns appear in other cultures and mythologies as well. They're just not typically referred to or called wyverns. Another misconception on wyverns is that they all breathe fire. Now, take this back to the reptile example. Just because a snake is a snake doesn't mean that it's a poisonous snake, right? It's the same concept. Just because it's a dragon does not necessarily mean that it breathes fire. Now, if we reference again modern culture, fantasy, and Hollywood, or even video games, typically the dragon always breathes fire. Honestly, some of them need to, think outside the box, because really, it's always fire. But I guess that is the most scary part, right? Another misconception on wyverns is that they are strictly fantasy, when in reality they do have historical or mythological roots, again within European folklore and some other cultures and pantheons. You just have to really want to find them and know what you're looking for. So when we're looking into, let's say, Hollywood or Western culture, and we are looking at dragons, 9 times out of 10, the dragons that you see in video games and like Game of Thrones, movies, TV shows, what have you, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna be wyverns. Don't ask me why, I don't fucking know. But the moral of the story is that wyverns are dragons. Not all dragons are wyverns, but all wyverns are dragons. So, if you want to learn more about dragons of mythology, dragon magic, how to work with dragons, or draconianism, go ahead and hit the like and follow, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.